The night I carried my drunk best friend out of a downtown bar, I thought I was saving him from embarrassment. I had no idea I was walking straight into a test that would shake my loyalty, my morals, and everything I believed about friendship. What his wife offered me that night wasn't just unexpected, it was something I should never have even considered. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the kind of loyalty that gets tested when no one is watching, take a second right now to like this video. Comment your thoughts, share it with someone who values real friendship, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us who we truly are when life pushes us into uncomfortable corners. It was late October in Chicago, the kind of cold that slips through your jacket and settles into your bones. The streets were wet from a light drizzle, reflecting the city lights in blurred streaks of red and gold. I had found Michael slumped against the bar counter, barely conscious, his words tangled and heavy with whiskey. He had never been much of a drinker. Seeing him like that told me something was wrong long before he admitted it. Michael and I had been friends since high school in Ohio. We had shared cheap pizzas, heartbreaks, job rejections, and the terrifying excitement of moving to a big city. When he married Sarah 5 years ago and moved to Chicago, I followed a year later for work. We were more like brothers than friends. The kind of bond that survives distance, arguments, and time. That night, as I half-carried him to my car, I felt the weight of more than just his body. He kept muttering about failure, about not being enough. I pieced together fragments about layoffs at his construction firm, about bills piling up, about feeling invisible in his own home. The confident, dependable man I had always admired seemed to have dissolved into someone fragile and lost. When we pulled into his driveway in a quiet suburb outside the city, the house was dark except for a faint glow in the living room. Sarah opened the door before I could knock. Her eyes were tired but alert, like someone who hadn't truly slept in weeks. She didn't look surprised to see him in that condition. That hurt more than anything. I helped Michael to the couch and covered him with a blanket. He passed out almost instantly, his breathing heavy but steady. The house felt unnaturally quiet, as if it was holding its breath. Sarah thanked me softly and walked me toward the kitchen. The overhead light cast a pale glow on the marble counters, and I noticed unopened mail stacked neatly near the sink. She poured me a glass of water, her hands trembling slightly. Up close, I could see the strain in her face. The woman who used to laugh easily at our backyard barbecues now looked like she was carrying a silent storm inside her chest. She told me Michael hadn't been himself for months. After losing his job, he had spiraled into self-doubt. He withdrew from her, from friends, from everything. He spent hours staring at the ceiling, convinced he had failed as a husband. She tried to reassure him, but he interpreted her support as pity. Every conversation seemed to turn into an argument. Then she said something that caught me off guard. She said she was tired, not of him, but of fighting alone for a marriage that felt like it was slipping through her fingers. She said she didn't know how to reach him anymore. I nodded, trying to offer comfort without overstepping. That was when she offered me something I never expected. She asked me to stay, not just for the night, but to help her save him. She wanted me to move into their guest room temporarily, to be there as his anchor, to pull him back into the light he trusted when he could no longer see it himself. For a second, I misunderstood her. My mind jumped to darker assumptions fueled by the dramatic tension of the moment. But her eyes were steady and sincere. There was no manipulation, no inappropriate suggestion, just desperation wrapped in dignity. She believed that Michael would listen to me in ways he no longer listened to her. She believed our bond could reach him where her words failed. She offered me trust. She offered me responsibility. She offered me a role in the most fragile part of their marriage, and that was something I shouldn't have accepted lightly. Moving into their house felt strange at first. I worried about boundaries, about appearances, about what neighbors might think. But more than that, I worried about failing. What if I couldn't help him? What if I made things worse? The first week was tense. Michael was embarrassed when he realized I knew how bad things had gotten. He avoided eye contact, brushed off serious conversations, and insisted he was fine. But I didn't push too hard. Instead, I sat with him. We watched football in silence. We cooked simple dinners. We took long walks through the crisp Chicago air, letting the wind clear our thoughts. Slowly, cracks began to form in the walls he had built around himself. One night, while we sat in the garage pretending to fix an old toolbox, he admitted he felt like a burden. He confessed that seeing Sarah work extra hours crushed him. He felt replaced by her strength. I told him what I had always known. That strength isn't about who earns more or who appears unshaken. It's about staying when everything inside you wants to run. It's about admitting you're scared and asking for help. It's about trusting that the people who love you aren't keeping score. There were setbacks. Some mornings he wouldn't get out of bed. Some evenings he snapped at Sarah over small things. But she stayed patient, and I stayed consistent. We began sending out job applications together. We updated his resume. I connected him with a former colleague in Milwaukee who owed me a favor. One afternoon, as snow began dusting the backyard, Michael received a call for an interview with a mid-sized contracting company. I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes for the first time in months. It wasn't about the job itself. It was about possibility. The interview led to a trial project. The trial project turned into a full-time position. It wasn't a glamorous comeback, but it was steady. It gave him back something priceless: purpose. More importantly, it gave him the courage to face Sarah with honesty instead of pride. I watched their conversations shift from guarded to genuine. They started cooking together again. They laughed at small mistakes. They argued less and listened more. The night I packed my bags to leave, the house felt different, warmer, alive. Michael hugged me longer than usual, his grip firm and grateful. Sarah's eyes were bright, no longer shadowed by exhaustion. She thanked me, but I shook my head. They had done the hard work. I had only stood beside them. Driving back to my apartment in downtown Chicago, I realized something powerful. Sometimes what we're offered isn't temptation or betrayal. Sometimes it's trust. Sometimes it's a chance to show up when it would be easier to walk away. Sarah had offered me a role in saving her marriage. Michael had offered me vulnerability, and I had offered them loyalty. Before you watch this ending, I want to ask you something special. Please comment the word second chances below if you believe people deserve support in their lowest moments. Your comment might encourage someone reading it who feels alone right now. Months later, Michael hosted a small barbecue to celebrate his promotion. The backyard was filled with friends, laughter, and the smell of grilled burgers. Sarah moved through the crowd with ease, her smile genuine. When our eyes met across the yard, there was an unspoken understanding. We had all survived something that could have broken us. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like, share, and comment. Engagement like yours helps these stories reach people who might need hope more than we realize. As the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, I felt something settle inside me. Loyalty isn't loud. It doesn't demand applause. It shows up quietly, in late-night drives, in uncomfortable conversations, in choosing integrity over suspicion. I had taken my drunk best friend home, expecting nothing more than a hangover and a thank you. Instead, I walked into a test of character, and in choosing to stand by him, I found a deeper understanding of friendship, marriage, and what it truly means to love someone without crossing the lines that protect what matters most. In a world where walking away is easy and commitment feels optional, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay.